just tell her it'll be a little bit. We're doing the show promo first. So what would you say, Mark? Is there an America left? Or are you going to save that for last?
Well, that's going to be by far and away the bulk of what we talk about tonight. The America of our founders' dreams does not exist.
Right. So welcome, YouTube people, to Taking Down the Monster. This is the first broadcast. We just built the page, so there's... it's going to be hard to get viewers today, but we can certainly give it a shot. And other than that, it's been a hellacious day with Facebook, and that's one of the reasons why we're late. But we're here now, so
I guess we're here now. We're ready to roll.
All right, I'm getting you on camera. Let's roll with it. Hold on just a minute here. Let me get the right camera. Oh, my God, what a day, Mark. I still got the Mama Bears text up there and everything. Holy cow.
I saw the Mama Bears last night at the America Frontline Doctors Rally, and they were absolutely terrific.
Oh, that's great.
We just need like-minded people to start a new country with the same documents, maybe a few small adjustments that our founders gave us, and I think we'd be okay.
Yeah, I think you might be right, Mark.
Yeah, let the other side write up their own version of the Communist Fascist Manifesto and have at it.
Uh-huh.
Go for it.
Was it 4221 on the phone or
4211?
4211, yeah. So it's been a hellacious start, everybody. It's just been one thing after another. I got suspended on one of my Facebook pages for 3 days because AI, takes lessons learned as hate speech. I guess now you can't have any dialogue. Everything's hate speech.
You can't say something negative or critical to the wrong people anymore.
Yeah, I think they report you. I think they got bots out there.
You can say anything you want to me. I could have liberals call in here and threaten my life, and that'll be okay.
Right.
I guarantee you that will be okay. Nothing will happen to them.
Right.
I want to, while I can be heard, I don't know if I can be seen yet.
You're seen.
I'm on.
Are you on the monitor? Is the monitor not working again?
No. I just don't.
Okay.
Anyway, I got to quit picking my nose then.
Yeah, you should.
I don't want to do that on camera.
Well, probably wouldn't be a good idea. It's not. I don't know. Picking your nose may not be as bad as smacking gum.
Well, before we get going, I want to mention last Thursday show with Kimberly Reichs and Emily Peterson and Sonia, who Emily and Sonia were here in the Purple Theater here, and then we had a terrific time. These are the sort of women that are leading the charge in America to try to reclaim some sanity. And then to see Kimberly and Emily on stage telling their story before.
Just want to tell you, Mark, and I apologize.
What?
We're live on YouTube. We'll let it go. There's really no one watching, but for some reason the Facebook is not live.
Oh, well,
So I'm going to double check something here real quick. Give me a second. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and crank the music back on. Let me take you off camera just for a little bit, and I apologize, but better to make sure we're live than not. YouTubers, it's our first stream, so whatever. It is what it is. I had to test the stream for 3 hours today just to make sure we could stream it the way I wanted to. So that was that, and thank you for joining Taking Down the Monster podcast. I think we're live on Facebook now.
Be right back.
So we don't know if America is gonna make it. Are you? We don't want to give it away. So. Waiting for some people to get on Facebook. I want to make sure we're even getting out there because I was censored today. Censored. I was censored.
Are we live?
We should be. I'm checking. Let me do a scroll here. Oh, let's see. Come on. Are we live? Yes? No? What? Are they letting me go live or not? Okay, I just hit the live button. So, yeah, Mark, they set up Facebook all different. Just overnight, they just set it up all different. So all the stuff is different, all the stuff. So now we are live on Facebook. Sorry for being late, everybody. Really apologize for that, but it's just been a technical bad day and a good day at the same time because I got a new computer system coming in. Got it delivered today. That was nice.
Well, I hope one person stuck with us, or maybe they're just coming on. Maybe they didn't come on right at 7:30.
Oh, as far as yeah.
Well, we invited a lot of folks on tonight, so we're good to go now.
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds to get it on your wall, and then that way I could get it into the groups. All right, I might put you on. Yeah, that's kind of the official Taking Down the Monster thing I made up, so I hope you like it. But you are on camera now. If you look at the monitor there, you should be able to see. And welcome everybody to Taking Down the Monster for the 5th time tonight.
Well, we're giving it a shot. I'm a little out of rhythm now, so if you're listening and you want to call in, I can get into rhythm real quick. As we're on YouTube or we're streamed to YouTube, I think for the first time tonight. I just want to explain a little bit about what I'm trying to do here. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and there was a lot of banter, a lot of laughing, a lot of talk about issues of the day, and people are trying to entertain you out there. They're trying to make you like them, to feel like you would be like a day without sunshine, to miss their humor and their banter. I don't have a partner here. I've talked to someone about it, and it may happen, but there's not a lot of banter here. I need you to call in. I'm happy to have you at 515-630-6262. This show, the difference in this show is that I get right to the core of the issues, and how we fix this, and where we went off the rails. This is serious business. I'm not here to, I'd like to entertain. I'll sing for you if I want. I think a couple shows ago I did do some singing.
It was really good too.
I heard that. I had somebody ask me if I was going to start a new career. And at 62, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can sing away and make some money finally.
Yeah.
But
I've only been trying it for 30 years, and all I do is spend money.
But the difference in my show is I get to the issues, the core issues of how we've lost it, and hopefully how we bring it back. Although we can't bring it back all at once, that's for sure. So I want to start out with something that you hear from politicians all the time, whether they're running for office, whether they're making a speech. You hear something like this: we have to focus on the problems facing the American people. And I think that gives people, I think it gives too many people a sense of comfort, a sense of, my God, they're working on things. Thank God we elected these people. They really are concerned. They're working for us. They're gonna fix these problems facing us. But we forgot they made the problems. That's right. They made the problems. They're the problem makers. They're the oath breakers. They're the ones who we have allowed to build this monster way out of proportion to its constitutional restraints. And now we are in trouble. And they are not the solution. America was an idea. I wrote that down, by the way, just to remind myself. America was an idea. America was something that had been in the works for centuries. And when it came to fruition here after first Thomas Jefferson wrote a little letter to King George and let him know that we weren't going to stand for Mother England anymore. And then we fought this war, and we had, all of a sudden, we had some independent states. We had no central government to speak of. And our founders started working on putting together a framework for that government. And I think they did just a great job. And what they did at the time, even though they expressed all kinds of natural rights for all men and women, people of all colors, nobody was meant to be left out. At the time, because of the context of the times, it was a very exclusive feeling in America. Only certain people really had rights. And again, America was an idea. It was impossible to implement it immediately. What we were doing was revolutionary. It was special. It had never been done before. I think it's unfortunate so many children in our schools have no idea how special America is, because all they've heard is, at the beginning, we had slaves and how we treated the Native Americans, and women couldn't vote either. And you hear all the negatives from the 18th century. And the way you need to look at it is we became very inclusive over time. We fought, we argued, blood was spilled, and through it all, we became a more inclusive country. Sometimes not in the hearts of people, but legally we did. That was an amazing, you can't find our story anywhere else in the world. It doesn't exist. So many different people coming to our shores from different countries. Some people brought here against their own free will. America is an incredible story, how it was all put together. And again, how we became inclusive in our rights, in the idea that we had rights that preceded our Constitution, and our elected representatives, their main role, their main charge was to protect our natural rights. But we've lost a lot of those natural rights. They've been whittled down. So when I say I pose the question, has America ended? Yeah, it has. We still sort of have borders. You can find us geographically on a map. We still have a flag. We still send representatives to the Olympics as Americans. But the America that our founders visioned, it's gone. There's no reason to delude yourself at all. It is absolutely gone to our detriment. No matter how much, right now America feels wealthy. The government's primed the pump. They've sent out checks for over a year now. They have also hurt a lot of people, but they've also put a lot of people, this government of ours has put a lot of money into people's pockets by just printing it up and sending it to people. That has a backside to it, a dark side, but we haven't got there yet. Even with all the inflation that we're experiencing now, the government just keeps sending us money, so it's like, well, okay, I guess I can afford these things. But anyway, America started to end at the end of the Civil War. As much as that should have been not really should have been, as much as it could have been a uniting force in our country. Thank you, sir. As much as that could have been a uniting force, it was not. It divided this nation even after the war. There was nothing in the Constitution to keep the South from seceding. Yet Abraham Lincoln made sure that war was fought to make sure the South did not secede. And so what we had was the first really major transgression on the rights of the states. And from that time forward, the federal government has continued to gift itself power in now, as we can see, in every way that it could, to the point where we have created this monster. And it's not a nice monster. It's not a kind monster. No matter how many checks it sends to you, it's not a good monster. It's a really vile and bad monster. It is what is putting us in danger of completely losing the future that our founders gave to us. So I'm not going to get too far into the history of every single event in America, but we're going to jump from the Civil War to where I really wanted to go today, and then we'll expand on it. And that's the year 1913. And I don't mean to bore anybody out there, but again, I hope somebody calls. We'd love to discuss any of this. We always are interested in callers, 515-630-6262. But in 1913, under the presidency of Woodrow Wilson and a very, in my opinion, criminal Congress, we added 2 amendments to the Constitution. And they were the 16th and the 17th. They were both disastrous for our country. We also added the Federal Reserve. We finally codified into federal law, not constitutional law, a central bank. The 16th Amendment allowed the federal government to tax the American people directly, with the idea they were only going to tax for extremely necessary needs, the defense of the country, things like that. they were only going to tax wealthy people. And the 17th Amendment freed, in many ways, the senators from the states. Before that, the senators were nominated by state legislatures and put into the U.S. Senate. After that, they were directly elected by the people. And while that may sound, there's a reason the founders didn't want that, because they wanted the senators to have the risk of being recalled by the people of their states if they weren't representing the state's interests. Because remember, the states were to be sovereign. The states is where the power was. But with the 17th Amendment, that power started to erode, and the senators started representing broader interests rather than the singular interest of their own state. And that's had many terrible ramifications for us. With taxing power now in their hands, and with the creation of the Federal Reserve, money started flowing into the federal government. So from there till now, we went from a little bit of money floating into the central government to now $5 to $6 trillion a year budgets. So the monster is completely out of control. We don't even know what a trillion is. You hear a trillion and you think, well, $1 trillion. That's 10 times $100 billion. A billion's a lot of money. That's $100 million. So now we are into the billions to the trillions. Does that sound like good government to you? Well, of course not. Anyway, political power has gone from the states to the federal government. The federal government's in charge of all of us. There are still battles to be fought in the states. There's still battles that can be fought in local government, county government. It's not that these politicians don't matter. It's not that local government doesn't matter, because it does. In fact, that's where we have to start the fight, is to put good Americans in power in our school boards, our county governments, our local governments, and our state government. But the federal government is where the real power is. We are all dependent on the federal government. I want to go through why I don't think America is America anymore, beyond screwing up the founders' vision, and we will get a little more into that. But we really don't have borders anymore. What is America? Our founders weren't against people coming across our borders and eventually becoming citizens. I'm not against that. I don't think most of you are against that. But when thousands of people can invade our borders and take advantage of a social welfare system, I don't care how many are working on the farms and the roofing companies and the restaurants and the hotels. Many are taking absolute advantage of our social welfare system, a very unconstitutional system from the federal government. It shouldn't exist, but it does. And when you put free money out there, people, both illegal and legal, are going to do whatever they can to get at some of that money. When we, during the FDR administration, when we passed the Social Security Act and Medicare, that, right along with 1913, was the beginning of the end of this country. And I know a lot of people say, well, I used those things. Thank God for those things. Do you think that there would be nothing in place of gigantic federal programs if those had never been made into law? Well, of course. In fact, more people would have just taken care of themselves. Or the states would have done more things to take care of people that fell through the cracks, or wealthy individuals, wealthy people within the families. That's what churches are for. That's what local charitable organizations are for. But what the federal government did is they found a way to assign us a number. And I've talked about this a number of times. There's no way our founders would have gone along with being assigned a federal number upon our birth, mandating our participation in federal health care and retirement programs. It was all about breaking our backs. It's those good intentions. Good intentions come along. We go, well, let's have that program. Let's do this for people. And they always are counterproductive. Always. So many ways that this is not a country I recognize anymore. We have now, and it's right in front of our faces, every single day, racial issues, racial divisiveness like we've never seen before. Something that, hey Robert, hey, I got people watching here. Call in, you guys, if you like to. We have, I have put this at the feet of one Barack Obama more than twice, because this nation was coming together racially and had been for a long time, and I think in many ways still is. All we've got is a bunch of white liberals and a few black folks out there rioting and carrying on. They have no idea what they're talking about. They really don't, and they don't want to debate you about it. They do want to burn down your businesses. They want to throw bricks at police. Here we go. There was a story today somebody wrote, and this sounds a lot like what I've said on here. Barack Obama is who brought this division to our country, to where we have riots now in America. We have murder of police officers like we haven't seen in our lifetimes. We have every day where it's a crisis. It's a racial crisis. Everything on TV is racial. I want to read this to you. Once the symbol of youthful hipness, the former boss of hope and change now lectures young people on what they should be doing. His legacy is being carried forward by a 78-year-old Biden and an 81-year-old Pelosi. That's above the average age of 80 of the House Democratic leadership. Oh, I got the, let me see here. Well, I'll just paraphrase it. Barack Obama is who made race big again. Barack Obama is who's made it a problem again. He did it purposefully. He started right off immediately when he made a big deal of an incident in Cambridge, Massachusetts, about a professor who couldn't get in his door and the police were called. And from there, he took full advantage of every situation he could, every crisis he could, to make it a racial thing. And now look what's happening in our streets. He had the leaders of Black Lives Matter in the White House multiple times. He had Al Sharpton in the White House multiple times. These are people that hate America, just like Barack Obama does. They absolutely hate America, and they have brought to us things like the 1619 Project, telling us that we've been a racist country. We were built on racism since 1619, when we were nothing more than a British colony. We now have kids in our schools taught that white people are racist the moment they're born. We're just imbued with racist tendencies the moment that we're born. We can't help it because we're white, and that we work too hard, and that we sometimes work overtime. Black people in this country, for so long, were an amazing story. After slavery, after the anarchy of Reconstruction, black people were becoming homeowners. Many black people outright owned their homes to a bigger percentage than white people did at the turn of the 20th century. I don't think a lot of people realize that. Black people, their homes were represented by two parents a big majority of the time. Black people were becoming engineers, scientists, doctors, lawyers, laborers, janitors. Black people were becoming a part of America, even in the face of the Democrat Party and its Ku Klux Klan, its Jim Crow laws, its poll taxes, the Jim Crow laws trying to make sure as much as possible that black people couldn't vote. But one thing you won't hear is while there were over 3,000 lynchings, I believe, by the KKK of black people, there were over 1,000 lynchings of white people that were fighting for the rights, the civil rights of black people. But that story's never told. There's a lot of stories in our history that are never told. And another one is, from the days of slavery, free black people owned slaves. Thousands of free black people owned slaves. Some of those slave masters were vicious slave masters. And again, you're not going to hear that in our media. You're not going to hear that in the schools. We had Paul Krugman, a guy that years ago, as an economist, won a Nobel Prize, who never has any idea what he's talking about. He's wrong about everything. I wish Paul Krugman was here. He's a great intellectual. I'd love to have a conversation with him. Paul Krugman says that Republicans are there is something wrong with Republicans in general because we don't want to talk about critical race theory. I just read this today. That's not true. See, that's so divisive and it's dishonest. We're willing to talk about everything. We're willing to talk about the greatness of our history. We're willing to talk about the mistakes that were made, the injustices. I want to talk about all of it. I think our students should learn everything about America possible. Everything should be on the table. But to teach that white people, upon their birth, are just naturally racist, that's about the destruction of America. And that's all the left has been doing for generations, is destroying America. Now, it's been through the Democrat Party. Ever since the Democrat Party was formed, it's a racist party. It still is. And now its offshoots, like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and combined with our teachers' unions. So black people were doing, in the face of a lot of pushback, a lot of struggles, black people were doing pretty well in America with all the wind against them. And then we got to the 1960s, and Republicans fought for civil rights and voting rights for black people. Great victories for black Americans. And then came Lyndon Johnson. And he piled on to the American people this whole unconstitutional idea of a war on poverty. The great Lyndon Johnson was going to eliminate poverty and make the world a beautiful, wonderful utopia where everybody was fed. And now we have so many people going hungry. And it all stems from destroying the great ideals of America with the war on poverty. That's what the Democrats do. They use words like and phrases and slogans like war on poverty. And how can you be against the war on poverty? Yet what it's done is created poverty. And by virtue of all these welfare programs, which of course white people have jumped on to the point, we're just basically a welfare country. Only about 45% of the people in this country actually pay federal income taxes. I don't think most people realize that. Only 45% actually pay federal income taxes, which shouldn't be, which we only have because of the 16th Amendment. We shouldn't be paying anyway. The war on poverty has given us poverty. It has broken down the whole idea that America was based on of a civil society, a society where people didn't steal from other people. There's nothing in our Constitution. It does not exist. Our framers were dead set against the idea that you could elect people to go to Washington, D.C., where we were supposed to have this basically this small government, one that was never invasive in our lives. We should barely know who our members of Congress are. It shouldn't matter that much who the president is. They were hired to handle foreign affairs. They were hired to handle having embassies overseas. But now they are hired to work for us, to fight for us, to give us something we didn't earn. And so the breakdown of civil society happens because what you have is a educated envy. We tell people, hey, it's not your fault you don't have something. In fact, you don't have to work as hard as you thought you might have to. We're going to get something from somebody else, and we're going to give it to you. In civil society, people that fall through the cracks, they are philosophically to be taken care of, to be helped by free people that want to step up and help people. And that's what we still do in America in the face of massive taxation, because we're a good people. The government was never needed for this, but the war on poverty, along with creating these massive federal programs of retirement and health care, direct taxation of people, these things have all added up to destroying the ideals of America. In fact, the ideals of America, I'm going to guess, are, if they're taught in any of our schools or universities, it's like over about a 10 or 15 minute period. Because they're too busy teaching about the sexualization of our children. They're too busy teaching about Black Lives Matter, which is a demeaning and condescending organization. And it's also represented by communism and anti-family activism. This is all destroying everything that America was about. And I know there's millions of people out there that still have this sense of what America is supposed to be. But we are in the minority now. I don't think it's the majority of Americans that are on the left. It's just that so many Americans don't know what America stands for anymore. We don't know our ideals. The greatness of America in some ways still exists because the rest of the world is either has too few people to challenge us, because we are also great consumers here. The world needs us. We're buying all their stuff. We're the greatest consumers the world has ever known. So we're great at that. But we really haven't had a challenge. The Soviet Union tried to challenge us, but found out that communism doesn't work. So the Chinese tried a different tact. And now we're dealing with more of a fascist communist society in China that has taken aim on America. And we helped build China. We did build China. Politicians, business people, bankers, globalists, they built China to challenge America, because America has to be taken down so that we can be drawn into some global network, so that we're a part of a worldwide confederation, so that they need us to have, as individuals, to lose our sovereignty, to lose everything that America is supposed to represent, and that is individual liberty, self-reliance, self-determination. These things are being destroyed by the welfare state, by massive taxation, by the Federal Reserve dumping trillions of dollars into our economy, devaluing our currency. COVID has been used to destroy America. For the last year and a half, we've lost so many civil liberties. We've lost the freedom to go to our church. We've lost the freedom to be with our parents or our grandparents or anybody that we care about while they're dying. The lie of COVID, and again, I realize that there is a virus out there. There's flu viruses. There's all kinds of viruses that kill people every year. Let me mention something about COVID that's just a little common sense if you're out there. On average, 7,500 to 8,000 people die every single day in America. Every single day, on average. Now, if all of a sudden, since the introduction of this bioweapon into America, if there were 12,000, 20,000 people a day dying in America, we'd have a huge story on our hands. That would be noticeable. But that hasn't been the case. And being there at the rally with the American frontline doctors, the point of view that came out of that, and of course, most of us that went there already knew what it was that we're being lied to by big government, by big bureaucracy, by big tech, by the oligopoly that runs this country, big media, big business. We're just little pawns out here, little serfs, waiting to be told if we can go to church or not, if we have to wear a mask, that our kids have to wear a mask to go to school, that we have to lock down, that we have to destroy certain businesses while other businesses thrive. This isn't America. COVID has been used as part to spike the ball on America. The war on terror has destroyed so much of our once great country. First of all, to go back just a little bit, we haven't declared an official war on anyone since the Second World War. Yet America, funded by our Federal Reserve and your tax dollars, has through our CIA, security departments in the Department of Defense, security organizations, through our military, we have been responsible for the deaths of millions of people, the displacement of millions of people. Now, this isn't on our soldiers. I mean, you can make that argument if you want, but for them, this is on an unconstitutional government that decides who it wants to kill, how many it wants to kill, how many it wants to displace, how many foreign governments we want to spy on. Our founders wanted us to be friends with the world. Our founders wanted us to trade with the world. Instead, we've become the policemen of the world. We have drones that kill innocent people. If any bomb from anywhere, from a nation, whether it was a drone or dropped from a jet or shot from a carrier out in the ocean, hit a hospital, hit a wedding party, hit a neighborhood where there's nothing but innocent people, how would you feel about America? I don't feel very good about it. I'm not proud of it. I want to be proud as hell of my country. I want our country to be like our founders envisioned it. I want to be a friend of the world. I don't want to be unrealistic. I want to have a strong-ass army. I want to have a strong-ass military. I want to have the best technology the world has ever seen. Cutting edge, and I don't want to share it with China. Look what our government's done there, as well as big business. We haven't been able to keep China from stealing so many of our great secrets, so many of our great technologies. We've lost God in America. Our churches, so many of our churches, the ministers, pastors, priests, rabbis, they didn't stand up to our government through all this COVID. And God used to be such a part of our lives. And now God's been taken out of our lives. Now, I do believe it's on the individual and the families to make sure that God is in their lives. It's not the government's responsibility. But government has become the God to so many. It's like the sun was to people in the past before people didn't know. You may not know this. People didn't know that the Earth actually revolved around the sun. The sun was considered a god because obviously without the sun there is no life on Earth. But the sun's not a god. Government has become the god to many people in this country. We wait on how much money they're going to send us, or how much money are they going to tax us this year? What kind of regulations are they going to impose on us? What are they going to scare us about? Who are they going to go to war against? By the way, I'm getting kind of serious here. I usually do this. We can have a good time here too. You can call in and we can tell jokes. We can do sing-alongs. We can do anything you want here on this show. It's about as relaxed as it gets. I get this intense because I just get to talking, and I want America so badly. I love everything about what this country is supposed to be. Everything. I love our founders. Warts and all. I love the idea of America. The shining light for the world. But we're descending into darkness. We're descending into the pits of debt, despair, destruction. And speaking of death, death is so represented by the plague of abortion in this country. From 1973 on, we supposedly legalized it. In America, life, liberty, property, the pursuit of happiness. We now legalize killing unborn children. How can you argue we're still America? That we're still a righteous and moral nation built on a civil society, low taxation, small central government, power with the people? You can't. You can't. We kill, I believe, close to 1 million unborn children every year in this country. And we've done a whole show on abortion, more than one show. And anybody that is all pro-abortion in any way, you're always welcome to call this show. But no matter how you think about abortion, it is devastating to the psyche of this nation, devastating to the righteousness that we were supposed to represent, that we do not represent. We kill unborn children. We kill people overseas that did nothing to us. And in our country, just like the rest of the world, we have massive sexual exploitation of children. Is that the number one priority of our governments, local, state, and federal? The assault, the rape, murder, the abortion of children? No, it's not. No, we're worried about global warming. We're worried about our government leads us down the road to getting all worked up about a new crisis almost every day, most of which over time proved never to be a crisis. But they always give the government more authority and more power in a nation that was built on very little authority and power to the federal government. What's been used for the last few generations, besides everything that I have categorized for you, that I've cataloged here for you, is a war on America's culture. People call it cultural Marxism. Marx wasn't a culturalist. Marx was a dirty human being. He was a racist. He inspired a philosophy that always fails. And yet here we are in America talking about whether we like socialism more than capitalism, where we think free enterprise is something that might even be racist inherently, even though we've had so many black and brown people in this country, gay people, women, white males, whatever, take advantage of the freedom to open up a business and succeed or fail. Yet we're made to feel like in America, it's only white people that are succeeding. This cultural war has been aimed at white males in particular. And that's where we're going to go now. If you think that the America of our founders exists, I mean, you can read the Constitution. There's a framework there that sets up a government, a limited government, sets up the responsibilities, the specific responsibilities of that government. If you think that America is here, that it exists, you're wrong. Look at the debt that we're in, almost $30 trillion. It won't be that long, and we will be paying over $1 trillion a year in interest on our debt alone. And all the while, we still have $10 billion to send to Pakistan for gender studies. Our culture has been attacked, and that's how we are ultimately being defeated. Again, even with all of the things we've done that our founders warned us about, even though we have become post-constitutional, unconstitutional, even though 90% probably, maybe more, of federal laws are unconstitutional, even though we have a corrupt court, we're still out ahead of most of the world because we had freedom for so long. We had freedom to create wealth. It was unequal in its distribution, which is why we were able to create wealth here and why people came here from all over the world. They weren't worried about whether the wealth was equally distributed by a tyrannical government. They just wanted a chance to make some money. They were willing to take their shot in a free country to make something of themselves. They didn't go to Germany. They didn't go to Russia. They didn't go to Australia. They didn't go to Brazil. The world was trying to get to America because of our freedoms. After World War II, we were incredibly powerful. The developed world was destroyed. We helped rebuild it. America became the preeminent nation on earth by far, militarily, economically, politically, financially, in some ways even morally. Now, we're in a culture war. You got to be worried about how you address somebody. You may offend them. It all started with the political correctness back in, I think it was the 80s. It could have been the 90s. We started laughing about political correctness. We thought, well, this will be something that'll pass quickly because it's so inane, because it was stupid to make people feel like they couldn't say certain things, certain ways. It might offend somebody. It might hurt somebody. Sticks and stones sort of stuff. But no, that was just the beginning. And now we've gotten to the point where instead of saying breastfeeding, we say chest feeding. We have, instead of mothers, they're birthing people. I mean, the social justice warriors, the leftists, the communists, they got to, stay up nights thinking of new ways to destroy us, to make us question who we are, to take over our schools, take over our churches. They've done a great job of it. So anyway, now you have, I don't know how many gender identities. Who knew? LGBTQ, RSVU, PC, plus. I guess the plus says it all. Now kids are being taught in our schools, you can identify as anything. And when you address those children, you need to address them correctly, or they have a grievance. In our schools, we are teaching young people, and we talked about this a little earlier, that white people are inherently racist, and people of color in particular are inherently victims, regardless of the proof against all of that. But that's what our children are being taught in our public schools while we send them there in masks to battle a virus that does not kill children. And in fact, basically, what that virus does is it kills people who have on average 4 comorbidities. They are already susceptible to death like all of us are, but some people are more than others. And when something else comes along to overload their system, they die a little quicker. It's been happening for hundreds of thousands of years. So we've had our schools taken over by the teachers' unions and liberal administrators and liberal teachers. Hell, there are conservative teachers in schools. Unless they want to lose their job, they have to stay quiet. They will be ostracized. They will lose their right to speak in the teacher's lounge. In our schools, our children are taught there's something called systemic racism in America. Let me tell you, there are no laws on the books that are racist. You know, this is out of left field, but do you realize that there are banks, there are financial institutions around this country that are completely black-owned? In America. Imagine that. You're never going to hear that, are you? That's not going to be taught in the schools. It's not going to be taught in the schools that many free blacks were slave owners. It won't be taught in the schools how important blacks were in the Civil War in particular, but also fought on the American side in the Revolutionary War. You're very rarely going to hear in our schools about Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass, even Jackie Robinson or Jesse Owens. All you're going to hear is that black people are victims. If I'm a young black kid going to school, God, I'd probably hate this country too. Some of them were taught that in their homes. Hate white people, hate America. We had a black woman in trying to make the Olympics. She took 3rd place. I think that gives her a pass to the Olympics. Who turned her back and made herself the issue when the American anthem was played, when the Star-Spangled Banner was played. So this cultural Marxism has invaded our schools. As we've seen, it's invaded our sports with the kneeling. And nobody's wanting to take away. This is what some loser leftists will say, well, they have the freedom to do these things. They do. You have a freedom to take a knee anytime you want. I really am not out here to take away. I don't do this show to take away anybody's freedom to do anything as long as it doesn't physically or financially hurt other people. But taking the knee when you don't even know what you're talking about, it comes down. Remember Colin Kaepernick? He wore socks that said something about cops are pigs, and he wasn't kicked off the field by the team. He wasn't fired. We have whether it's LeBron James trying to give his opinion on every situation out there, whether it's black people that are killed by a cop, sometimes unarmed, and there's reasons they were killed, and they were justifiable reasons when they were unarmed. Everything's being used to destroy and now defund police. And now what we have are huge spikes of murder and other sorts of violent crimes all over our country, especially in our urban areas. Murder's on a huge uptick in America as we've defunded police, and this is what they were after. This is part of destroying our culture. It's part of destroying America. Defunding the police was the goal all along. Yet, last year, police killed 9 or 10 unarmed, so-called unarmed black people in this country, and 19 or 20 white people. Now, there are more white people, but black people commit over 50% of all violent crimes statistically in this country. Yet we're told the police have it out for black people the minute they get up in the morning. You would never know the facts because big media, big government, the monster that owns us, big tech censoring us, colluding with big government, big business, which is part of the foundation for fascism. You would never know, or you would never not think that police officers don't wake up in the morning and think, you know what, I got to find a black guy, and I think I'm just going to shoot him. When nothing could be further from the truth. But this is being used to bash us, to give people a reason to riot, to throw bricks at cops, to kill cops, to burn our cities down. In the culture war, we now have to worry about what the hell bathroom we're going to use. Do you think the rest of the world's laughing at us? I would be. Well, let me see. What body parts do I have? Well, that doesn't matter. How do I identify? In Pella, Iowa today, Pella, very conservative city. They have a problem with the swimming pool. The public swimming pool has a policy now that it's discriminatory to tell somebody of one sex they can't use a bathroom or a shower with people of the other sex, as long as they identify, as long as they let people know, hey, I'm a guy, but I'm identifying as a woman or a girl or a little girl if you're a little boy, and so you have to let me into the bathrooms or the showers with the opposite sex. Well, they're saying they're the same sex when obviously they're not. In Pella, Iowa, this was a huge issue today. The destruction of our country has been going on a long, long time. The ideals of our founders have been not just at risk, they've been destroyed. I mean, last summer we saw their statues being pulled down. We see people renaming schools. We've had on video on this show teachers calling for the end of our Constitution. They have no idea what's in it. They have no idea what the 3/5 clause was. They don't know anything. They just know they're emotional about it, and they want to destroy America. We in our music nowadays, I mean, there's still some good music, not like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The good stuff, the great music that this country produced. In our music, you have lyrics about killing a president, killing cops, rape, all kinds of sexual assault, pedophilia. It's all in there. That's called music. People buy that shit. On our internet are millions and millions of pictures of children in sexual situations. Brutal, sadistic situations in America on our internet. What a culture we have. A culture of abortion. Our all of our major sports. I'm ready. One day we'll probably have some golfers take a knee out on a golf course. In marriage, now I've said this before, I don't believe marriage should have anything to do with government, especially the federal government. But we had a Supreme Court decide that gay marriage is legal. Now, if we're going to have heterosexual marriage as a constitutional right, well, then I understand the line that gay marriage would be legal. Rights are rights, right? Natural rights are natural rights. These aren't natural rights. Marriage should have nothing to do with the federal government. But it's being used, the institution is being used to once again attack the culture of America. Oh yeah, the movies. You know, I went to a movie a few years ago with my oldest grandson, who's now 17. It was Astro Boy. I've talked about this before. The movie Astro Boy, it was a cartoon when I was a kid. It was made into a movie. The entire movie was leftist propaganda. In our TV shows is leftist propaganda. You almost can't be a conservative in Hollywood or the entertainment industry anymore. When you do speak up, you are putting your career in jeopardy, as we now have something called, in our culture, cancel culture. Regular folks aren't trying to cancel people. You want to have your opinion, live your life, do your thing, don't hurt me, don't take from me. Right? But the left, if you say or do something that they don't approve of, which is just about everything, they will do what they can to get you fired from your job, to lose your rights, to embarrass you, essentially to cancel you. Cancel culture in America. It's not confined to certain areas. It's not low-level stuff. This is a major part of our culture now. Cancel culture. Sometimes taking away our First Amendment rights. As government becomes more and more involved in all of these ridiculous notions. And now we have the whole idea that white people and white men in particular are a problem. We're too ambitious. We work too much. We work too hard. We believe in showing up on time. Stupid things like this. Yep, a lot of white people are like that. A lot of black people are like that. A lot of brown people are like that. But everything's a color thing now. Everything is shaded in colors in America. What we've done is destroy the feelings of brotherhood between people. I have felt since I was a little boy, even though my dad in particular had racist elements to himself that he expounded every now and then, that America was a united country. That overall we respected each other. Most of us kids of my generation, we didn't care what color someone was. I mean, some people do. I know a lot of people of color that care way more than white people do about what color anybody is. But now it's our defining identity. Everything's about identity. So we've got the culture along with, and there's other things too, the culture along with everything else I've listed here. I mean, I didn't talk about 9/11. 9/11 was used to destroy us as far as I'm concerned. We spent trillions of dollars overseas. We created massive amount of death and destruction. We spent trillions to protect ourselves, and we passed a law for a Homeland Security Department that is now the third largest federal government department with 240,000 employees violating our rights on a daily basis. We've federalized America. We are supposed to be a bottom-up nation. The power is in the people. The power is in our local institutions. The power is in our civil society of taking care of each other. You know that he ain't heavy, he's my brother? That's America. We are supposed to help each other out. We are supposed to be a moral and righteous nation. Not through government, because government doesn't know anything about being moral or righteous. Government is a thief. Government steals our responsibilities away from us, our self-determination, our self-reliance. It steals our money and decides to use it any way it chooses. It's used it to make states dependent on the federal government now. Any major issue has become a federal issue with no constitutional standing whatsoever. If you are a totalitarian, if you're for authoritarian government, this is great for you. This is a leftist dream. Leftists aren't progressives, they're regressives. They want to take us back to the time where government controlled our lives entirely and government does in so many ways already. From birth, where we're all assigned a government number and mandated to participate in retirement and health care programs. Then we have welfare programs and government schools and government-funded universities. This is cradle to grave. This is a tyrant's dream. This isn't America. I'm sorry, it's just not America. Stalin would be happy with this. Mao, he'd be smiling. Castro would be beaming. He's beaming from wherever his dust is. These people would be thrilled with what is happening in America. This is not America. The America that was envisioned by our founders is gone. It is absolutely gone. Some people still have the idea of it and how we can rebuild it. I think about how rebuilding it all the time. But it's gone. Do not delude yourself. It's gone. Just recently, this weekend, I talked to my first wife for the first time in about 25 years. And she is very protective of this country, as I want to be. I want to protect this country too, and everything that we're supposed to stand for. I don't think that when people come from other countries, and she came from Russia, well, technically Ukraine. I met her when I lived in Moscow so many years ago. We had a great story behind us. A year after meeting her, it was very innocent. We had a fun time going to Pizza Hut in the Bolshoi Theater. I hope she's listening. She was on earlier, but we didn't get the show started in time. She might have left. If she is there, hi Tanya. People that come to our country from other countries are amazed at our freedoms. They don't realize what we've lost. They don't realize the debt that we have. They don't realize the takeover of our country by these cultural monsters. I just want to remind people of something that you may not know. And I know we have a few people watching now. This gets shared out. It's being shared out more and more. We're having more and more followers all the time. Our rights, our natural rights, which you don't come out of high school even thinking about, that you have these God-given natural rights, or if you don't believe in God, just natural rights from nature by virtue of being a free person. These rights do not come from our Constitution. They predate our Constitution. That's what our founders gave us. Our representatives, when we elect them to go to Congress, we have elected them to guard our natural rights, to make sure that our rights are not violated. But they don't do that. They break their oath immediately after they take their hand off the Bible or the Quran or whatever they can put their hand on now. They break their oaths. To just give you a simple example, the Second Amendment. And my producer's saying there's some comments on here. I'm not seeing them.
I'm putting them up on the monitor.
Okay, I haven't seen them go through.
Do you see the monitor?
I do, but I'm not seeing any comments up here.
Okay, so
here, Krista here. Just like the equality is actually supporting inequality. Do you know? I don't know. We're so worried about equality and equity. The only equality we're supposed to worry about is our natural rights being equal, regardless of your color or your sexual persuasion or your religious affiliation, or whether you're an atheist. We all have the same natural rights in America. And that's the number one thing that our elected representatives and our judges are supposed to protect, and they don't do it. They all break their oath. And you know what? Republicans, to me, are the worst part of it, because they talk the talk. They talk the talk, and then they go to Washington, and they play the games of, well, I got to compromise. I can't get anything done if I don't compromise. Good, then don't get anything done. Stall government. Stall the federal government. It's completely out of its constraints. It's completely unlimited almost anymore. Not entirely, but almost. Our founders wouldn't understand any of this unless we had passed amendments to modify our government, to modify what the government can do for us or to us. Out of all of our amendments, the Second Amendment is one that has a very simple sentence in it. And if you don't understand every word of the Second Amendment, you can look it up. Because the liberals, the leftists, they try to make every word and every phrase in the Second Amendment something that it isn't. And we could go over that in a show, but we're not going to do that here tonight. But in the end, your right to be able to protect yourself from a tyrannical government, your right to own a firearm of your choice shall not be infringed upon. Yet, we have hundreds, maybe thousands of federal laws. We have an ATF, an Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms department that infringes on our rights all the time. We talk about gun control in this country. This idiot for a president that we have, just like so many idiots of presidents, talk about, well, we need some gun control. No, there's other ways to combat what's going on in our streets and sometimes in our neighborhoods and our schools. Guns save more lives every year, by far, than they take. And well, guns don't take anybody's life. Humans do. Guns aren't the problem. Humans are the problem. I mean, anybody that doesn't believe that, I don't know. Have you ever seen a gun just get up and shoot itself? Of course not. We infringe on that right every single day in this country. It's like the Second Amendment doesn't exist. There's no back and forth as to whether you should be infringed upon or not. Shall not be infringed. It's that simple. But anymore, it's not that simple because the federal government does whatever the hell it wants. I know there are states that are starting to stand up to this. Missouri right now and Texas, they are standing up to the federal government finally. It's not easy because the federal government gets most of our tax money that they shouldn't be getting in the first place, because we should never have passed the 16th Amendment. But now the federal government, through the Federal Reserve and taxation powers, has all the money, and then they tell the states, well, we'll give you some if you do this, if you abide by this, if you follow our guidelines. That's not America. None of this is America. We have a 10th Amendment, a 9th and a 10th Amendment, that really encapsulate everything about the powers in this country, the powers of government. What they say is that any power not specifically enumerated in the Constitution as a power of the federal government belongs to the states and to the people. What did the founders give the federal government? The federal government. The federal government, if you were an individual or an organization that was inciting treason, or you were directly involved in a treasonous act, you could be put to death for that. The federal government had that responsibility. The federal government was to make sure that we all used the same money. There was a time when states all had had different currencies. The federal government, we hired the federal government to make it so we could all trade more easily with each other by using the same money. I don't think it was absolutely necessary, but that's a responsibility we gave the government. The federal government, through the Commerce Clause, was to make sure that the rules of trade between states were level. And yet the Commerce Clause has been used to say the federal government can do anything. The General Welfare Clause has been used to say the government can do anything. When do you actually think that our founders were advocating general welfare as we've come to know it today? No, of course not. Do our kids learn this in the schools? In our universities? No. They learn something entirely different to, again, destroy this country. The 10th Amendment was the firewall of protecting our rights. And when is it used anymore? There's a 10th Amendment Center. I read things from the 10th Amendment Center all the time. But in many ways, it's just talk. Because the states don't stand up, or they haven't up until recently, as this government's getting so out of control. We're finally starting to realize something's not quite right. A federal government, $30 trillion in debt, going to go to $50 trillion, $100 trillion before we know it. I don't think it's going to go to $100 trillion before I die. If I die a natural death of the average age of a white male. But we're going to hit $100 trillion one day. This government that has become nothing, and this is the heart. This is the heart of what's destroying America. It's redistribution. It's taking money from our corporations, our businesses, and individuals, as much as they can get their greedy hands on, to then decide how to distribute it, which is why Washington, D.C. is full of bureaucrats, lobbyists, and lawyers. It's why it's a swamp. It's the largest government the world has ever known. And it's all there to redistribute your wealth, your property. Antithetical to everything the founders believed. You cannot find redistribution in any way in the Constitution. You can't find murdering unborn children in the Constitution. You can't find killing people overseas without declaring a war on the Constitution. You can't find the right of government to keep you from going to church in the Constitution, to assembling peacefully wherever you want. Frédéric Bastiat, a French philosopher, wrote a book about plunder. We talked about it once on this show. It's just simply called The Law. And for Bastiat, the law was the law. And the core law, well, it's in the Ten Commandments. Not that anybody knows younger than 45 or 50 what the Ten Commandments are anymore. That you were not to covet thy neighbor's goods. Our founders were influenced by that. That's why even if you do covet your neighbor's goods, you would have to do it by killing them or finding a way to steal from them, which then you should be put in jail. You should be punished for. But we have codified it. We have passed laws, unconstitutional laws for federal departments and agencies that are nowhere found in the Constitution. Departments of Education and Energy and EPA, all these things that we say, well, states can't do this. Well, they could. I would rather have governors working together on problems than these people going to Washington, D.C. that become corrupted the minute they take their hand off the Bible. Redistribution is the socialist, communist, fascist dream. Did our founders put together documents that were socialist, communist, common goodism, feel-goodism documents? No, they put together laws to constrain the federal government and highlight and elevate individual liberty, which is why, again, so many people still want to come to this country because of what we are supposed to be. Because we still are better than most of the rest of the world in these regards. But we're just not what we were really supposed to be. We have given up our rights to a monster, to a federal government. If you've never gotten anything else from me, I hate this government. I hate it with a passion. I hate it for my kids, my grandkids. I hate it for your kids and your grandkids. I don't care if you get a check from them. I don't care if you apply for something and you go, wow, I'm so glad I got that government. It's destroying us. It has made us slaves. We are dependent on the government. It is corrupt. It is bankrupt. It is unconstitutional. We need to slay this monster. We need to take down this monster. It's not America. It's not America. We're not righteous. We're not moral. You can riot. You can burn down businesses, and the cops will stand aside. You can be censored by big tech. In collusion with government. And that seems to be okay. But a man who bakes cakes for a living in Colorado, he's being told who he has to make cakes for. This isn't America. I don't care if he just wants to make cakes for black and white striped midgets if there was such a market for it. If that's his choice and his free business, that's what he gets to do in America. In the America that was envisioned by our founders of freedom and liberty, responsibility, personal. I guess nobody disagrees with me. Every leftist out there hearing anything I've talked about here, just about anything I've talked about here, would be going crazy, out of their minds. What kind of a nut am I? It's a living constitution. We can make it up as we go. Chaos is fine. They're wrong. They are wrong on everything. With that, for anybody that stuck with us tonight, thank you. Thank you very much. We got off to a late start. We had some technical problems. I'm here in the Purple Theater where there is also some live music that goes on. Joe has built quite a venue here. Purple is everywhere. I don't even think he's a Minnesota Vikings fan.
No, I'm not.
He's not. He might be a Prince fan. Are you a Prince fan?
No, for some reason, just purple sounded good to me.
Purple sound. I think he likes Crown Royal. I do. Crown Royal whiskey, which comes in the purple bag.
And people wouldn't believe how much purple paint is in this studio. It goes around the whole 900 square foot.
Well, Joe plays music down here. He was a Nashville musician for a number of years. Joe, you want to tell people about your show?
Yeah, the Purple Theater Live. It's at Purple Theater on Facebook, if you guys would just go there. If you're a musician, we're looking to set up coalitions of musicians and do some live broadcasting either out of the studio, and then also I coach people to get their home studios set up correctly at a low price. And then we can do some acoustic rounds and stuff like that. So we're gearing up for it. Thank you for letting me say something. So yeah, great show, Mark. Really, the division. You really hit it on the head on all the equity and the division that's being perpetrated. It's obvious, and I wish people would wake up to it.
Yeah, the only equality in our country is equality of your effort. If you're not willing to make that kind of effort equal to other people and you get less, that doesn't mean you can go and take it from other people. But that's what happens in America. That's what we've become. Well, it's way more than that.
It's really a bad situation, and they've really fooled a lot of people, haven't they, Mark? The government.
What it's done, it's weakened us so much that we have to be concerned about we call it a takeover by the Chinese or global organizations. Well, takeovers come in different fashion, and that takeover's been going on for a long time. And I want to do a whole show on China. I can't blame the Chinese for what they do.
Right.
I can castigate them. I can tell people how awful they are. We shouldn't be buying anything from the Chinese, let alone being dependent on the Chinese for pharmaceuticals.
Right. Why are people even excited about? They should be excited about not buying from China, based on the atrocities they do to their people.
Exactly. We shouldn't be buying anything from China. Just like I don't buy anything from Nike ever. So with that, I want to say hello to Tanya. I don't know if she's watching right now, but it's been so great to reconnect. She's one of the loveliest people in the world. She's amazing. She's eccentric in all the good ways. And I know she's watched part of the show tonight. For those of you who did look in, God bless you. There is a God. We didn't come
somewhere
about randomly. This isn't some cosmic accident. If you think so, I wish that you would. I wish that you would open up your minds a little bit more. And I do, as a person who believes in God. I've opened up my mind and decided that I'm a person of faith. And I believe that there is a reason that we are here, that there is a purpose to our lives, and that Jesus Christ died and was resurrected for us. That we are all miracles. We are all miracles here on earth. And one day, with the belief in Jesus, we all have a chance to pass to a much more peaceful situation, a divine life. So keep that in mind. We're not an accident. We really aren't. Everybody have a good night. Take down the monster. Think about it every day of your lives. The federal government is our problem.